U.S. President Donald Trump met in Alaska to discuss a potential end to the Ukraine conflict.
The summit focused on possible land transfers and security guarantees for Ukraine. No ceasefire was secured during the talks.
Israel announced plans to relocate Gaza residents to southern safe zones that started on Sunday. Joseph Eckerson reports.
The military will provide tents and shelter equipment to ensure civilian safety. The relocation precedes a planned offensive to seize northern Gaza City.
A shipwreck off Italy's Lampedusa Island claimed at least 27 lives, mostly refugees and migrants.
The tragedy occurred yesterday, marking one of the deadliest incidents in the region this year.
The U.S. suspended visitor visas for Gazans following social media posts by a far-right influencer.
The decision came after claims that wounded Palestinians were receiving medical treatment in the U.S.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host or guest and should not be interpreted as statement of fact. Independent fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
We got a cup of coffee in here, please.
Oh.
And hot.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Yeah.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Excuse me, I'm doing last minute.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hell with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? We've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with a Dog.
What is that? What is that just popped up? Cheek. Buzza boom bing bom bing. Another one of these days. 2 audio tracks, he says. No. It's only 1 audio track. Oh, look. Good morning, folks. GD's telling me I have some slight audio problems here. I only have one audio feed right now, and I don't know why we would have double audio on there. We're trying to get some stuff going on. Slight audio, 2 audio tracks. I don't know how to remedy that. There's only 1 audio track. We'll see what we can get happening here. I have technical issues going on again in the studio. I think we have a good show for you once I get these tech issues solved or resolved, and we can move on. I think we have 2 good authors, both of them political stuff. Just during media asset play. All right, you're being like a Robert Urey right now. You're talking to me when I'm trying to talk. Something's going on over here. Anyway, 2 authors today, both in the political realm. Should be an interesting show once we get the dust out of the machine. I was up till 2 a.m. working on a video for propaganda. Still not, I'd say probably about 3/4 of the way done. Not all the way done. I am excited about getting it out. Why am I excited about getting it out? I don't know. It's not like anybody gives a fuck. Did I say fuck already? I'm sorry. Yesterday, I don't know, this probably will come as a shock. I was on Twitter. Yeah. I know, calm down. And Newt Gingrich, if everybody remembers Newt Gingrich, first of all, who names that kid Newt? Eye of a Newt, whatever. He's still got a lot to say. And he shouldn't have a lot to. He's a fat fuck who should just lay down, have dirt thrown on him, and just go away. But he had a lot to say about the Trump-Putin fiasco. And I cursed him out. I told him, basically the facts are, Trump said he would end that war with a phone call in 10 minutes after being elected. He actually said he would get it done the day before, which is kind of illegal, before he was sworn in. If you're not president, you're not supposed, whatever. But to try to make an excuse, well, we don't know, we have to have patience, we don't know what was said in the meeting. We know this. We know that the war is still going on, even though Trump promised his followers one day. Now, it's 8 months, and yesterday I caught a little bit of Destiny debating like a social media influencer who said, well, nobody took Trump seriously and thought he actually meant one day. Yeah, he did, because Brett Baer actually asked him point blank, is that hyperbole? He said, no, I know just what to say. In 10 minutes, a 10-minute phone call will get the whole thing. This is while he was campaigning. So now the right wing wants to claim, well, it's like the wall. Well, we didn't think, we meant Mexico was going to pay for it in other ways. No, he meant literally. He was going to end the war with one phone call in one day. It didn't happen. Nobody on the opposition side of Trump, and that's not necessarily the left. There's a lot of people in the middle and even on the right who oppose Trump. Nobody thought he was going to actually get it done in one day, but he actually was making that promise and was hoping the rubes would believe him, and they did. To say now, well, he never meant that. So anyway, I I cursed I cursed Gingrich out on Twitter, and Dan Scavino, weird name, Jr., who was Trump's attorney during his impeachment, followed me. I said, well, that's what. Is this somebody just trolling, somebody using that name, a fake account? And I looked, and no, he had like 1.2 million followers. It's the real deal. And then I looked him up, and I did a little black hat stuff, and saw his IP address. And this is the real guy. And then I started looking at the traffic on the website, minddogtv.com, and he was all over there looking at me like, what the hell? I don't want, listen, I like having new followers on social media. Not necessarily want the president's lawyer follow me, especially in these times, because it's kind of like the Gestapo now knows where I am. And I don't say that lightly. I do think we are in a Fourth Reich. Having President Trump, I hate even saying those words, President Trump, his inner circle following me and keeping tabs on me now, that's uncomfortable. So I'm a little bit paranoid about that. And I don't think anything's going to come of it, but there is that. So, nothing changes. We have a hurricane on the way. Nothing in the news this morning about the hurricane. At least not in Allen Edwards. Now, this has been building for over a week. I don't know when it's going to get here. It's supposedly pretty big. It went from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in like an hour or something. But the size of this thing, when it actually hits, at least looking at it's taking up the whole Atlantic Ocean right now. It's not looking good. And for a guy like me, I got gigs coming up this week, and I don't know how a potential hurricane slamming the east coast of the United States might affect some of that stuff. So I'm a little nervous, to say the least. Still trying to get things happening over here. We'll work with it. We'll get there. A little patience, folks. By the time we get to the second guest in hour 2, I should have all the technical issues worked out, right? You trust me on that? We've been here before. We'll see what happens. Let's see. I'm going to run a commercial. We'll say hello to GD, and then we'll meet our first guest. You know what? I have to go back to I have to go back to my cheat sheet to make sure I pronounce his name right. So I'm all discombobulated. Anyway, let's hear from one of our sponsors, shall we?
Mindbloom is helping people achieve life-changing clinical and personal breakthroughs, alchemizing both the psychedelic medication, psychiatric care from psychiatric clinicians, coaches, we call psychedelic guides, and a lot of content and meditations and programs into this really transformational experience that, because it's delivered at home, costs a lot less and is a lot more convenient for people to receive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, in the room with me now are the aforementioned young, beautiful, sexy GD Fenderson. Good morning, GD.
Good morning, America. Are you a co-host that has been by employer? No. Don't worry. What could go wrong?
What could
Trust your gut. Do what.
Wow, we lost GD. He left. What happened? You left.
I think they took me out.
Wow. Dan Scavino's watching, and he. What do you make of that? I know I'm being paranoid, but am I being like insanely paranoid? What would you think? Because it wasn't at all a nice thing that I said. I'll tell you what I said. No, I won't tell you what I said because I don't remember. But you know what I'm capable of saying when I say not nice things to Newt Gingrich. You know what it's like. And then he liked it, and then he started following me, and then he's showing up on the website. And I'm like, why is Trump's lawyer hounding me, following me around? Am I just being foolish, crazy, stupid?
Well, you know. Okay. First of all, I can hear my echo. You hear me as an echo?
Yeah, something's a little breaking up, but I was good to know that you're having technical difficulties too. We're all having technical difficulties today.
Well, I wasn't.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So you don't hear the.
Now I don't hear you.
I don't.
Oh, you're not. Your mouth's not moving. No wonder I don't hear you.
Okay. Well, I will pop out and let them back. Maybe it's me.
No, it's good. I'm hearing you now.
Oh, okay. I hear myself. I'll just ignore you.
Oh, the mic sounds like it's going in and out a little bit. That's anyway. Whatever. So I was up again, no sleep. What the hell's going on, man? You know what? I was working till 2 o'clock in the morning on this video, and I said to myself, maybe I should just shut the machines down and get up earlier and reboot them, be cool. And then I said, nah, just let them go to sleep. And this is what happens when I let them go to sleep. The machines, they want to be shut down. They want complete rest. So it's all my fault. Are you hearing me? No.
I hear you, but I like sunshine.
All right.
I'm gonna let myself
do that. Oh, you need help with that?
I keep forgetting to do that.
Oh. Anyway, we're struggling here with some technical issues. Let's get to our first guest, and GD will come back at an appropriate time when he gets his stuff back together. We apologize for the ghost in the machine. If you know what's going on with the storm, you can let us know in the chat room. We were hoping on Alan Edwards to fill us in, our news guy. Apparently he doesn't know either. Okay, John Didakis is a former editor of CNN's Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. During John's 45-year career in journalism, he was a White House correspondent during Ronald Reagan's presidency. John is the author of 6 award-winning mystery suspense thriller novels. Plus, he's a manuscript editor and motivational speaker. John's specialty is helping wannabe writers become published authors. He also inspires people struggling with grief to use writing as a way to find healing, which is a whole lot of different kind of things. Let me welcome him in. Good morning, John. How
morning, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here. Let me see if GD, you okay?
Nope.
Yeah,
I never know, and I hear John's echo.
Wow, that's on your part. You want me to take you out again? Because you sound fine here now.
Well, let's find out. Sunshine in California. Let me know if I still have echoes.
You don't have echoes.
I mean,
I hear echo.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry about this, John. Anyway, thank you for being here. GD, you want to go out and work on your stuff, or I'll continue with John without you.
I just popped back in. I don't know what else I can do. Let me.
All right.
Okay, I'll hop out.
All right, let me do this. Anyway, good morning, John. Here, let me show you quite a diverse and not a usual path to becoming a novelist, going to the political route, the White House correspondent stuff. Tell me how you go from that world, the heavily politically influenced world, to becoming a writer and then helping people deal with grief and things like that through writing. How does that path find its?
Well, it's probably not as torturous as you think, because the novels I write are political thrillers. So there's definitely a corresponding thing there.
Okay. Are you still involved in what's happening in the political world in America today?
Involved only insofar as I'm a civilian watching the news. Okay. I retired from CNN in 2013, and now I'm just dealing with it.
Yeah, dealing with it. That's an unusual way to put it. Because our second guest is the author of a book called Social Contagion, and it's about how, I'm going to just come out and say, I'm not going to just kind of walk on eggshells here, how Trumpism has ruined our personal relation. It's beyond the politics and all this stuff, what it's done to America and the way we deal with each other. Have you ever, in 45 years in a career, have you ever seen America become this psychologically damaged because of politics?
Yes.
Yes.
The presidency of Richard Nixon and the Vietnam War. The riots were tearing the country apart. It was also the time that Martin Luther King was assassinated and Bob Kennedy. It was a mess back then.
You know, I was alive during that period. I even worked for Nixon's campaign as an 8-year-old, as a coffee boy. But as an 8-year-old and living through it, I still had that shield of oblivion where kids don't really feel what adults are feeling. And obviously we didn't have the internet at that time, so not everybody was deeply active in politics. I was around, again, being a coffee boy in the Nixon campaign, I was around a lot of that stuff, but I did not feel it like I'm feeling this. But I hear what you're saying. 3 assassinations in a short time is very difficult on the psyche, too. Do you see any comparison between now and then?
Well, there are a lot of comparisons. And I think though, that Trump is much more toxic than Nixon was.
Yeah.
And I think that because of the internet and social media, it has intensified the polarization.
Somebody's saying there's still a major echo on the guest. Matthew, you should check your audio settings and the echo cancellation is turned on. I'm not hearing any echo on them, so let me just...
I'm hearing echo. There's a delay in my earphones.
All right, let me just see what else I can do on this end.
Man, can you hear me okay?
Much better.
I can hear you okay.
I went completely out. I went completely out and then came back in.
All right.
Am I okay? I changed my echo cancellation settings, so that may have been a problem. But since I don't use headphones, since I wear earbuds, see, John didn't think I had him in, but you just don't see him under my hair.
All right. Well,
Well,
thanks.
I think Matt must have done something at his end because
I don't
now
think so.
I'm not
Like I said,
hearing an echo too.
I changed my echo cancellation setting on my
All right.
end.
People are tuning in for a tech discussion. We could have that discussion another day. We're talking about politics and the road to becoming a novelist. But so I understand now there are some parallels and all that kind of stuff in politics today. But now going from somebody who was used to reporting the truth, writing about the truth, to somebody who's making stuff up out of whole cloth in your mind, difficult transition.
It is tricky because it's a firing offense in journalism to make things up, unlike what some presidents will tell you. And so it was hard to give myself permission. And so my first novel, actually, before I even started writing novels, I started writing a biography of a friend of mine who was killed in South Georgia. And because again, that was just the facts. But my research was digging up information about him that even his family didn't know. That caused them to have a lot of consternation. So they encouraged me to back off, which I was fine with because it was time consuming, expensive, and all that. And my wife suggested that maybe I should pour some of my research into writing fiction, which you can do in your jammies. And so that's what I did. And so that's when I made the transition. And still, most writers will tell you write what you know. And so a lot of what I write is certainly drawn from personal experience, but I've learned to give myself permission to embellish and exaggerate and make things up.
John, I have a question for you real quick. Where
Sure.
are you in your 12-step program for writing as a woman? I understand that when you wrote your protagonist as a female,
Right.
that it was possible that you were going to enter a 12-step program. Did you enter the program and did you complete it?
I did not, but at least not formally. Let's just say that based on the way I live my life and the conversations that I have with the women in my life, I have probably checked all those boxes, and I think I've made it through the program, and now I'm in recovery, and that yeah, it's certainly a new way of thinking when you write as a 20-something young woman when you are neither. But I discovered, or pregnant. But I've been around a woman who's been pregnant. In fact, I helped participate in that, and so I think that what informs my writing is being able to ask questions of women and then listen to their answers and discover that being a woman is a lot different than being a guy.
So now you've gotten two different women pregnant then, although thank goodness one of them is not real as far as we know, right? It's just
Now you're getting into my memoir.
Okay, sorry.
That's next time.
That's like it's not an immaculate conception. It's I don't know what
manuscript,
it is.
A manuscripted conception.
Right, yeah.
So that's an interesting observation or question to ask you about. In journalism, there are a lot more women in journalism today. Do you see, is the glass ceiling still in place? Because it doesn't seem that way. If you turn on cable news, you will see it almost dominated by women today, except for the 8 p.m. slots still go to men.
Yeah, if the glass ceiling isn't broken, it's certainly cracked. It's obviously journalism has changed tremendously in the last 50 years, and women have really come into their own in many ways. I'm not sure that that's true at the in the C-suite level, but I think that that's been happening as well. I'm not as actively involved in it, but when I was still at CNN, there were women executives as well. So I would say that we've come a long way in 50 years, or women have come a long way in 50 years, but I think that there's still room for improvement.
If I can ask you about CNN,
sure.
How long ago did you leave CNN?
2013. So that would have been, I don't know. They told me there'd be no math with this conversation.
Oh, yeah, 12 years ago. 12
yeah,
years
thank you very much.
All right. So I'm just by then it was already half the country was demonizing the network, the Clinton News Network. I mean, you were there for a lot of that demonization. You weren't to the point where the president of the United States or a candidate for presidency of the United States was calling it all fake news and constantly berating you. But did that negative reaction or impression of where the news is that it's all lies, it's all fake, it's all did you ever take that personally?
I think there are times when I did, just because it shows a fundamental lack of understanding that people have. And I think that just in general, being a human being, when you're misunderstood, I think that can create a visceral reaction. But part of being a journalist is to know what your bias is and then set it aside. And so journalists, professional journalists, are pretty good at compartmentalizing and not letting their feelings get the best of them. But it still hurts because, my fifth novel, Fake, I started writing that when Trump started calling journalists enemies of the American people.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's just not true. And so what I tried to do was to create a story in which my protagonist is a White House correspondent. Where did I get that idea? And she's the victim of fake news. We, the reader, know that what's being reported about her is not true, but lies have consequences. And that's what I wanted to get across in that book.
John, I have a question for you that's not exactly, well, here, I'll give you the question if you let me know if you can answer it.
Sure.
One of the things I noticed in not just media, but in the way politicians react to the media, there was a time when you could do this, you could point, and then all of a sudden, all of them start doing this gesture, like this, or this, okay? And women, like women reporters, when they stand up for the camera, they now have they almost always have to cross their legs and have a certain posture. The legs are crossed, and so they're almost like they're all trying to have like the same shape. Is that like some place where they standardize these things and say this is how we want things to look, or is it just happening organically? Like one person does this and the next does it. One lady stands with her legs crossed, and now they all stand with their legs crossed.
Wow, that's a really intriguing question. The short answer is I don't know, but I also know that they have consultants behind the scenes coaching presenters or the people who are the talent, voice coaching, probably presence and things like that. So if you're noticing some sort of routinized and sort of stylized and a consistent approach, then that could very well be evidence of the influence of consultants.
Is there a reason you chose to make your protagonist a woman? I mean, was that like a thought out conscious choice, or it just felt right in the moment?
It was no calculated decision, other than when I started writing fiction, someone suggested that I should write in a way that stretches who I am. Never been a woman, at least not in this life, so I gave it a try and discovered that I could access it because emotions are not gender specific. We all have the exact same emotions. It's just that the women in my life are more willing to share their emotions and they're more articulate about it.
I'm glad you said that, because I would get a beating for saying that.
Well, I'm just saying in my life, I'm not making a generalized statement, because I know there are plenty of men who are vulnerable and, able to share their emotions. But in my experience,
we call them Republicans.
You're right.
We call them bros.
Wow.
Actually, didn't it used to be what was that term they used for guys that like wore bags and was it I can't remember now, but it was a specific term for guys that were like becoming more sensitive and
metrosexuals. Is that what you?
Yes, I knew it had an M. I just couldn't remember what the M stood for. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what. I always thought that it was just guys who knew how to groom themselves well.
Yeah. Or they're gay. I mean, that's part of it too.
Yeah. So now in writing your novels, first of all, is When we talk about thriller genre, is it a mystery? What is the genre of Enemies Domestic?
Enemies Domestic is really a political thriller, but it's got elements of mystery and suspense. So it's not pure thriller, and that's the case in a lot of different kinds of genres. There's sort of cross pollination and there's a mix. But I think that my first novel, Fast Track, that came out 20 years ago, that was almost a cozy because it was much more, I don't know. It was tame, I think, compared to some of the stuff that goes on in Enemies Domestic. I was still kind of finding my way. My publisher called it mystery suspense. I'd never heard that particular mix of genres before, but I was a newbie. And I think that as my series has unfolded, it still contains elements of mystery, but it's becoming more thriller-esque as we go. The ticking clock is much more of a factor in the storytelling now.
Interesting stuff, guys. I like those kind of books, like The Firm and all those kind of stories like that. I'm just wondering, because though in that day when those books were coming out, I was part of the demographic that they were written for. Pretty much 35-year-old men or something like. I'm just wondering who's reading political thrillers now. Is it women? Is it? Do we know who your demographic is?
That's hard. That's hard for me to tell. Based on my experience at writers' conferences and just the feedback I get from readers, I think probably 80% are women. But I know that a lot of men read them too. When I'm doing book talks, the women are more interested in my process and writing as a woman. The guys are more interested in talking about CNN and politics and stuff like that.
That's interesting because I started out wanting to talk about CNN. It sounds like I fit right in that mold.
You're a bro, man.
Yeah,
I have a question for you about the book. Now, your book has won 3 awards so far.
Actually, a couple more.
Oh,
than
okay.
that.
So those are the more prestigious ones that you've got listed?
These are the more prestigious ones, yeah.
Okay, so does that make your book, quote, literature, as opposed to just a book that's like a first time author would write? I mean, because you have a lot of experience as a journalist, so I'm assuming that gave you a leg up in the quality of the way you write.
Ooh, there's a lot in there. Literary. It's not literary. Literary is a certain genre, and it's very character driven, very psychological. The writing has to be exquisite, lots of detail. I'm not a literary writer. I'm not that good. You can be a first-time writer and be getting awards. So getting an award can certainly give you more credibility. But I'm not sure I'm answering your question. Maybe you could rephrase it or
You're fine, because I'm not sure there was a question. There was like an observation. I was just trying to find out if your years of journalism helped make you a better writer, and if that was, I guess, that's basically it. If that's what helped you, because some people have a career in writing, but they still write bad books because it's not the same thing.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I would say that being a journalist did help me be a good writer, assuming I'm good. And that is because journalism requires you to write tight. You have to be clear in your writing because whether it's newspapers or broadcast, there's only a limited amount of real estate. And so you have to fit the story into the amount of space that you've got. And in broadcasting, the real estate is even more compressed. So the goal is to get rid of all the excess verbiage and go, as clearly as possible, explain what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's a rule within all creative arts. Economy of words is a good thing, and learning the economy of words. We're seeing a lot of people go from blogging and journaling into writing today, and more books coming out. And what struck me as interesting this morning is I asked you about your readership, and it doesn't seem like you pay a lot of attention. You let the publisher deal with that, because today so many people you have to be like a webmaster and do your analytics and find out who's reading your books and who to market to and all that stuff. It doesn't seem like you're concerned with that at all. Like you just leave that up to the publisher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned in principle, but I think that I'm too lazy to really do the research to find out.
Yeah, it would be interesting though. I think it kind of more than interesting to understand who your audience is, and is there an audiobook out?
All of them are audiobooks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're on ebook as well. They're Kindles.
Yeah, that's a big thing today. Is what in the past, audiobooks weren't even a thing. I mean, if you go back far enough, and now it's like an essential part of it. I think more people are interested in listening and then reading probably a little bit later. But I do feel like men in general, and again, this is generalizing, do feel like men are very reluctant to read a novel or a book, a whole book. They will read a newspaper article, they'll read an online article, but long form literature, we're too lazy for that. We've become too lazy. Do you agree on that?
Not necessarily, but I think I don't know if either of us know for sure, but based on our experience, then I would say you're probably right, and maybe I am too. I don't know.
Right.
And I think people have a different reaction as far as, I'm going to say, legacy, or as far as after they've read the book or after they listened to the book. If you have a hard book that you purchase, chances are, even once you've read it, you're not going to get rid of it. It sits on your shelf and becomes a collection.
You've been looking over my shoulder, haven't you?
Well, actually, I was looking at my basement because my wife just had me give away a shopping bag full of audiobooks. I mean, a shopping bag. It probably has maybe 40 audiobooks, all of which I gave her, I think. she's donating them to charity. But the physical books, some of which, and all of which she's an avid reader. She's not like me. I'm an avid listener to people who read the book so I can skim it. But she has not gotten rid of any of those books. But the audiobooks, they've got to go.
I see. Okay. Well, now a lot of audiobooks are digital, so there's that, right?
I was just wondering why people, if you had any insight as to why people save books, but the same content is on the audiobook and they're willing to part with the audiobook.
Man, that's a good question. I think I hate to generalize. I can only, give a hunch. I think part of it is there's that tangible wanting to possess something. I think that there's maybe it's all psychological, and it probably depends on the individual. Some of it might be a concern about, you don't want to throw away a book because that's just, that goes back to Nazi Germany and burning books. I don't know. I mean, hoarding is maybe part of it. Maybe another is that we are lazy and we intend to read these books.
That's my issue right there. You just nailed it.
That's mine.
Yeah. And being somebody who interviews a lot of authors, I get a lot of books, and then I definitely want to read it. And I want to read it before they come on the show. Oh, they ran out of time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so if you look in this room right now, I'm not exaggerating. There's probably about 400 books over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the issues are probably mirrored because I have books that that are signed by the authors that I haven't read, mainly because they gave me I got the books, but it wasn't the thing I would be interested in reading. But I was grateful, so I have these books. And then I have the books that I read in college and went back when I was studying to be a minister, and most of those books I still have. Some of them I gave away to books I outgrew.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that, but when you read a book, you're reading it with a voice in your own head. And it almost becomes your voice. Once you've read it, it's like your voice until they make a movie out of it. Then they add their voices and their faces. But these are, even though you didn't write these books, these are your characters and your voices that you created to go with it. And in a way, it's almost like throwing away a piece of yourself because you've invested into that book.
I think you're right. I think there's a lot to be said there. Absolutely.
Am I better here? Am I okay?
Yeah.
I was flying by the seat of my pants, man. You disappeared, and I panicked. I said, "Quick, Glenn, say something and try to be clever." No.
No, the reluctant machine came back, so everything is good now. I feel happy.
Yeah. I hear you really well now.
Yeah. I have a personal question, and I don't think you probably foresaw this interview, this conversation going in this way, but I want to talk about your personal life and your personal journey. We have something in common, which I'll get to, but when you started out in was journalism just a way to pay the bills until you became a novelist?
No, I actually was going to be a lawyer. My dad was a lawyer, and he and I were going to go into practice together, and then I was going to use the law as a stepping stone to get into politics. And though for the good of the country, I went into journalism instead, partly because I think I became kind of cynical about Watergate and Vietnam. And so I felt journalism was the perch to sit on to try to figure those things out. And so I was fine with being a journalist for a long time, although I think that there was always the desire to write a book, but not to write fiction. And that came when CNN made me an editor back in the early 90s. And I'd been a writer, I'd been a reporter, but editing was tedious, but it paid well. And that's when I needed a creative outlet. And so it took me 10 years to get the agent that I've got and to get my first book published. And in that 10-year time, I got better as a writer and learned more about the business and the craft of it. So by the time I left CNN in 2013, my third novel was coming out, and I basically glided into a second career of not only being a novelist, but a writing coach, a manuscript editor, a writing teacher, and a public speaker, and all of those things. So I probably should have left CNN 10 years before I did.
Wow. You talk about writing as a way to heal grief.
Right.
That come from your personal situation. Is that what got you through? I have a son. I lost a son to a heroin overdose.
Oh my God. Well, that's the two of us.
Yeah. And I tried to write, I shouldn't say try. I wrote a book to deal with that, but I never published it. I'm still like, I have imposter syndrome with the book to a point where I'm not going to put this out. I feel like it's going to be judged on like you should be a better author than this. And so I have not published it yet. But with this idea of using writing as a healing tool to get through grief, is that something that you have really looked into deeply, or you just talk about it from your own personal experience?
Well, first, I'm really sorry to hear about your son. How long ago was that?
Be 10 years ago this February.
Yeah, I mean, it's still fresh. Our son died about 12 years ago, and it's still there. It was not writing about grief or writing about loss was, again, right. It was something you write what you know. And so the very first chapter of Fast Track, my first book, is my sister's suicide in 1980. I was on the scene that day, carbon monoxide poisoning. And so writing about it was a catharsis. And it wasn't until much later, after Stephen died, that I began to realize that there's a theme here in all of my novels, because my protagonist is, in my opinion, sort of a real person, and she's dealing with grief. It's not just a one-time thing; it's with you. It changes you, and so that's part of her character, and it's part of my identity as well. And so I went through grief counseling after Stephen died, and by this time I was able to. I don't want this to be a long answer, but I started writing about after he died, probably about 8 months after he died. And it was way too early. I wrote 6 chapters of a book, and it was too soon. And I set it aside for 2 years. And when I went back to it, I wrote the book Bullet in the Chamber. And the idea for the book came when I woke up from a dream while Stephen was missing. He was missing for a week, and it was out of character for him. But by this time, I knew he was using, so I didn't think it was going to end well. And I woke up with an image of a bullet in a syringe, and I felt that if the cops could make a connection between the fatal dose and the pusher, that the pusher should be charged with second-degree murder. Because, in my opinion, it's like selling a pistol with one bullet in the chamber to someone you know is going to play Russian roulette and you don't care. I discovered in my research that it's not that easy for the cops to make that kind of connection. But those first 6 chapters that I wrote ended up being in the book, but in a different way. But the long and short of it is that writing inadvertently has been a therapeutic endeavor, because what I tell my writing students is the better you know yourself as a person and the more you're willing to move toward the pain, the more authentic your writing will be, because our society tries to anesthetize the pain, and good writing, I think, tries to capture it and make some sense out of it.
I need some anesthesia right now, because you're bringing up a lot of old pain, and you talk about grief and the stages of grief, but as you already alluded to, it's still fresh and it still comes back, and there are still things that stay unresolved. But I heard you say too soon, and that was within a couple of years. I started writing 3 days after the funeral.
Yeah.
And extremely painful. Like,
was it in journal form, or were you writing fiction?
No, I was writing in basically the best kind of memoir I could do. I was fact checking with my ex-wife and like, is this how you remember it and all this stuff? But just the process of sitting there writing is like, why am I doing this?
It's excruciating. It's excruciating.
Yeah.
How did you do it for a long time?
4 years actually to complete, and then another 2 years going back and re-editing and stuff like that. So
well, I mean, that tells me something. It tells me that you're a communicator and you want to understand. You're willing to look deeply within yourself. Whether it's going to be published or not is sort of beside the point. One of the guys, there was one guy who took one of my writing classes on memoir writing. I can't remember if it was memoir or writing as a way to heal from grief, but he said that after his wife died, he kept a journal. And when he started to write his memoir years later, he went back and looked at his journals and he said, I'd forgotten how angry I was.
Right.
And so journaling is a way to pour your emotions and everything onto the page. And it's a catharsis. It gets it out there. And that's, I think, healthy.
Yeah.
And so, at some point you may want to go and revisit it and see if there's something in there that might be of use and of help to other people, because pain and loss are universal. And it's not just the loss of a loved one. It can be the loss of a pet, a job, innocence, health, relationships, all that kind of stuff. We all have experienced pain, and it's a question of how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, and for me, like when other people, and I'm a very empathetic person by nature. People wouldn't get that from me necessarily, but from my public image. But I am a very empathetic kind of person by nature. And now when I see other tragedies, it feels more real. It's really a burden to hear about tragedies in the news like that. It's just the pain that it brings with it. With your and I hate to distract from the discussion of Enemies Domestic, which is the book which we were talking about. Go to
we haven't talked about it yet, but go with your thought, because this is great.
This idea about wanting to punish the drug dealer. In my case, everybody who knew my son wanted to kill the guy. I mean, the guy was older. My son was a kid when he recruited him as a part of his gang, whatever hangout thing. The guy was in his mid-20s, and my son was like 14 when he started hanging out with him and all that stuff. And but I've come to a place where I don't know if I understand that guy's mentality, but he was an addict himself. He got into dealing to support his own addiction and wasn't really thinking on moral terms. Everybody wanted to paint him as just this evil person, and I'm just thinking he's just another failed human being who he stopped caring about himself and then stopped caring about others. So I didn't have that vengeance moment.
Wow.
And then he killed himself, and everybody was celebrating, and I couldn't find any peace or any kind of joy in that moment of people just doing a victory dance because the guy killed himself.
Right.
So, when you talk about grief, do you see people expressing how difficult that is to come through all these different feelings of vengeance, guilt, all these kind of things, and express it in a way, or come out on the other side of it, having become a better person through going through the writing process?
I'm not a psychologist, so that's not particularly the relationship that I have with people. There's a lot wrapped up in that observation and that question. People, I mean, there's no one way or right way to grieve, and so a lot of people just deal with it in different ways. And I think that, I'll make another generalized statement that's based on my experience, and I think that you're an exception to what I'm about to say, and that is that I think women are more effective in dealing with these kinds of things because they're not afraid to cry. I think crying is a great emotional safety valve.
Yeah.
I think that we guys tend to hold it in a little bit more. It doesn't make it go away. I think it just makes it more corrosive. And if you think about it, I can't think of one mass shooting that was done by a woman. And if there was one, that's an exception to the rule. And if you think about it, I think that a lot of these mass shooters have a lot of unresolved anger and grief, so that by the time they're shooting, it's the tears that have become bullets.
Now, I also am a firm believer that laughter and crying are they're like this. They're almost the same. They're just they're almost the same. And so
that's really good.
If you can't cry it out, then you can laugh it out, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yes. I think that's what we see in a lot of these stand-up comics. They have a lot of inner pain, and they have learned to channel it in a constructive way to make others laugh. I mean, Sarah Silverman, had two major deaths in her life within, just a few weeks of each other, and she's monetized that, but it's part of her own emotional health.
But you have to, I think if you're a successful comedian and you're working through your pain that way, I think you have to work through the pain before you put it on stage. Otherwise, people are just watching you grieve in real time, and that's ugly. That's really ugly.
Yeah, it can be.
Moving on to the book, if we may.
Thank you.
Yes. Enemies Domestic. One of the reviews I read said it is extremely controversial but very important book in these times. What makes it controversial? Are you expressing your own opinions about the political?
That's a home run pitch. Thank you very much. In Enemies Domestic, and I write it as a woman over the course of 6 novels, but you don't have to read them in order. But by the time we get to Enemies Domestic, Lark has been a White House correspondent, and now it's her first day on the job as White House press secretary. But she's pregnant, and she's ambivalent about becoming a single mom. The dad is dead, and the first question that she's asked comes from a Tucker Carlson type in the Daily Briefing, and he asks, "Are you or are you not planning to abort your unborn child?" And that question puts Lark in the crosshairs of the abortion debate. Abortion is a crime by this time, at least in many states, very much like the way it is now. And whether she likes it or not, she is now, the poster child for abort or not to abort. And so she's living this out in real time in a culture that is highly toxic and politicized and polarized. And then a dictator becomes president. So controversial? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you can't talk about. First of all, if you're a man, you're not even supposed to have an opinion on it, or you're not to be allowed to voice your opinion on.
Well,
on
if you live in
abortion, you know.
Texas, basically it's all men telling women how they should live their lives.
Yeah. So yeah, I could see that is a very hot potato there. Now, how do you deal with writing about that and kind of drawing boundaries for yourself, or do you just say no boundaries? I'm just going to write what I feel and what I want to write, and let people judge it.
Look, because I'm a journalist, and I've been on all sides of the abortion issue, I understand the issues. And so what I wanted to do is not to make it a polemic, but to help to make people feel that no matter where they come down on the abortion issue, they're going to feel that their position is fairly represented, because there are a lot of different ways to approach this issue, and that people on all sides of the issue have come to their opinions in a heartfelt way. And so I wanted to respect that. And at the same time, I wanted to create a story that was, I don't know, thrilling and engaging, but at the same time dealt with the abortion issue in what I hope people will think is a thoughtful way. And as opposed to just trying to make people feel a certain way or come to a certain opinion.
This is very interesting to me. Now, you with all your books, and you said it's almost like a series, but you don't have to. You can read them one at a time. Does every book address? You pick out like a hot topic for each book and kind of.
No, not really. What I usually do is when I write a book, it's usually something I'm working through in my personal life. And so that becomes, in a sense, the subplot, or it becomes part of the emotional, psychological texture of a character. And then I'll tack it on to a bigger issue. And sometimes those two things are related. But I'm trying to think. Troubled Water, the third book, deals with God, it's been a long time since I've read it, but there was a friend of mine who was arrested for preying upon teenage girls, and he owned up to it. He went to prison. He never tried to shift the blame or not take responsibility for what he did. He pleaded guilty and did 2.5 years. And I was a supporter, or a support for him when he got back out. And one of the things he was discovering is that he did the time, but there was so much of a public revulsion, an understandable revulsion against that kind of crime, that it almost made it impossible for him to live and make a living because of all the restrictions that were placed on him. And so, I tried to make that understandable in Troubled Water. It was a subplot, but so yeah, I mean, I haven't really talked about that much because the book has been out for so long, but I think that is an example of an issue that I tackled, not so much to, make a statement on the issue, but to help people understand that once a person is back having paid their dues, and they're back into society, we can make life miserable for them, but it just makes it almost it makes it harder for them to move beyond it and really be rehabilitated.
And I would just say, expand that out to just to amplify your point here, expand that out to society. The more we keep that one individual feeling like hopeless, that they can't find any kind of redemption in their life, the worse it is for all of us, and the more it propels more, reckless behavior on all of us. So
absolutely. You put it, the word you used, hopeless. I mean, that is that's why people commit suicide
Yeah.
and commit crimes. I mean, I'm reading a manuscript right now. I'm editing a manuscript of a guy who, did some time, and it's a sort of a prison memoir. And I mean, his first day in prison, he's in with some of these really hardened, guys who've been in for 25 years. I mean, how do you expect someone to, become a law-abiding citizen when they get out? Because he did get out. Do we really want to rehabilitate these people, or are we going to be sadistically, punishing them over and over and over and over again forever?
Yeah, I
Well,
think it's more
today,
about punishment.
if this happened, let's say today in today's environment, he probably would have a bunch of allies, because of even you look at it, as much as people say they are repelled or appalled by what Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein did, they are being protected still, and more so, if not equally as much as the victims. So,
And also, there is a kind of attempt to make it's okay if they were 16 because we want to, in some way, they want to say that's not pedophilia. That's not, listen, it's underage and you can't provide consent at 16. It's just, but there is this, I don't know, movement or effort to kind of redraw the lines of what's really acceptable and what's not acceptable. And a lot of the Epstein corner, the Epstein supporters, the right wingers were saying, yeah, well, she was 16. A girl's a woman at 16.
it doesn't, but it doesn't stop at 16, because I've seen the comments about, well, in this country here, if you're 13, you can marry.
Right.
It's like,
And the
the
younger the girl, the more that line shifts. Well, in some cultures, 9 is okay. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In some countries, you're betrothed at birth.
Yeah. Let's go back, and because time is short here. Enemies, domestic. Sounds just from the title of it, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of hope in this book. If I read if I read the book, am I going to come away with like any kind of?
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. I mean, Enemies Domestic, the title is taken from the oath of office, where presidents and government officials pledge to protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Right.
And in this country, it's set up so that we can have a revolution every 2 years. The entire House of Representatives is up for re-election. And so I am hopeful, because I believe that people aren't stupid, and they see what's going on, and they know that they have a voice. And I think there's a lot of hope in overturning the House and maybe even the Senate in the next election. And that there's hope in Enemies Domestic. Go ahead.
I was with you up until you said people aren't stupid. I was with you right up until you said people aren't stupid, because
some people are. Some people, though, are deluded, and that's not necessarily stupid. There are a lot of Trump supporters who are very smart people.
Yeah. I watched a debate with Destiny and a guy called the Misfit Patriot last night. The Misfit Patriot, definitely, in my opinion, falls right into that category of deluded. He's obviously a bright person. He can keep. He can look at facts and statistics and keep a lot of those in his mind, but he definitely buys into propaganda and narrative. And when a lie is just beaten over the head enough times, it becomes more palatable, and more people are more likely to accept it. And if you desire for those lies to be true, the more easily you're going to be falling into that propaganda.
One of the things I address in Enemies Domestic is mental health or mental illness, because I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of what's going on now with QAnon and with this Trump cult, I think is, I don't know, for lack of a better word, mental illness. And I don't mean that in a pejorative, they're just crazy kind of way. I mean, I really do think delusion, there's a certain being out of touch with reality. It goes to what you were saying about the truth.
Yeah.
We start to believe what we want to believe, even though we're pathologically totally out of touch with reality. That's mental illness.
Yes.
And that's not really, that's a human condition. It's not a political condition.
Well, we're not making it, and I think you'll agree with me on this, but I'll ask it in a question form. I
Sure.
don't think we're because I started by asking you about other times, and you brought up the 60s, which were like hell in the United States. But the one thing that was different in the 1960s, we did not one of the things that was different, we didn't have social media where we are. And this kind of will segue, set us up for our next interview in the next hour about contagion. We have a pandemic of mental illness that we are spreading, and we don't even have to go out to get it. We're opening the door and saying, "Come in my house and infect my mind, my spirit, and all of me every single day."
Well said. Well said. Yes.
Is there any hope for?
Yes, I think there is, because social media in and of itself is morally neutral. It's what we do with it. It's how we consume it. It's how we feed it. And I think that the more discerning we are, the more informed we are, it can be used for good as well. And I think that it's a pendulum kind of thing. And I can remember when radio came along, they thought that was the root of all evil. Same with television. And to a certain extent there's some truth to that, but it's all how we consume it and feed it, and are informed about it. And I think that the fact that you're going to tackle it in the next hour indicates to me that there is hope, because we want to change the narrative. We want to change the experience. And the only way we can do that is become more self-aware of what it's doing to us and what we can do to change things.
Well, it's not doing any good for me. And I know when we talk about mental illness, I find myself saying things that sound like conspiracy stuff, just because I have and they talk about TDS, and I think more of his followers have deranged syndrome than the people who see him for what he is, just a con man and a crook. But for me, I go back to, I'm not a believer in reincarnation, but I can't help think there is such a strong tie between the Hitler energy and Trump's energy right now. And I find myself making a case for he's Hitler reincarnated. And I'm like, wait a minute, well, how did I get here? Social media damaged me this way. What made, because I even if I had those thoughts, I wouldn't be bold enough to say them out loud without thinking I'm going to be institutionalized any moment for saying something like that. So it's not been good for me, and I'm addicted to it. I talk about it every day. I got to get off Twitter. And there I am talking about what I saw on Twitter yesterday. It's not very hopeful for me.
I'm hopeful for you.
Thank you. Is there any of that included in the book subtext?
Oh, sure. I mean, social media is that's reality, folks. So that's in the book. That's been in a couple of books now.
Wow. Tell you what, I would love to. I'm going to get the book, and I'm going to read the book, and I'm going to encourage my listeners to get the book and read the book.
Thank you.
And then I would love to have you back on when I'm more informed and have actually read the book, and we could talk about the substance of the book rather.
It's a deal. It's a deal. I so appreciate your questions, and I'm sorry that we experienced that similar loss, but that I think will inform our next conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Again, the latest book is called Enemies Domestic. You can get it at John Didakis.
But that's I know who I am.
I know who you are. You know what? It's rare that anybody actually phonetically spells it for me, and then I still get it wrong.
Well, I think Dukakis, he has it a different way, and that's still in the zeitgeist.
Did he spell his name the same way you do?
Yeah, except mine's DED and he is DUK. Okay. And so I get Dukakis a lot too. Okay. So I know who I am.
We appreciate you being here. Good luck with the book, and I will be reaching out as soon as I'm done reading it. And again, I will. People can just go to the website. The link is in the description to go there quickly and check out all the books while you're there. Maybe you want to get all 6 of them, or buy. You know what? The holiday season's coming up. Buy them for a gift for your loved ones. There you go.
I love you, man. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, G-Day. That was great to talk to you both.
Have a great day. Bye for now.
Too.
Bye, John Didakis. Not. Does anybody remember Michael?
Michael Dukakis?
Dukakis. Yeah.
I think it's funny. At some point, some people forget the entirety of a story, and they'll remember like, oh yeah, he's the one that dressed like a little sperm in a tank, or like John.
You know what I remember? I remember a Saturday Night Live sketch, John Lovett, and the other guy was playing by Dana Carvey was playing Ross Perot, and Lovett said, "How am I losing to this guy?"
People think I'm trying. The guy that John Dean. People forget that John Dean was a governor, and they just remember him for that one moment where he goes, "Yeah!" And even that was if you listen to the actual video, the actual audio, it was not like that. That was re-EQ'd so that was amplified and made him look like a real lunatic.
Interesting. I remember John Dean because I was working in academia at the time, and just when campaigns, and it wasn't quite as it is now, where campaign season never ends, where the presidential campaign was just starting to heat up, and his name was being mentioned, and around the university, he was the big favorite. He was the guy. He was almost like and then he just blew up, and that blew up in a good way, blew up his potential, and then became a pariah, and then it kind of like disappeared from politics altogether, right? So,
kind of. He's been more of a commentator or contributor to different programs. Yeah. But like I said, again, you can tell who the real threats are to the other side, because that's who they try to take out first.
Yeah. That's what they claim they did with Biden. They did try to take him out, but they claimed all along that we want him. They wanted him. No, they didn't want him.
Right. Yeah,
I was afraid of Biden. I mean,
yeah, they very seldom do they actually admit in public that that's who they're afraid of. They say, yeah, bring him on, but that's the one they're trying to take out behind the scenes, either through dirt or through any means necessary. Any means necessary.
I saw, what, I can't go back and change the past, but I really wish I could in so many ways. The idea of running.
Would you take back your vote for Nader?
No, you know what? I was gonna vote for anybody other than Trump, and I voted for Biden. But in the back of my mind, it's like this guy was. I knew then he was not the guy. He was not going to be aggressive enough in keeping Hitler from getting it. Because I do, when I come back to these comparisons, the Hitler going to jail for 5 years and then coming back and be even stronger. To me, that was in the playbook right from the beginning, and the Democrats needed to understand what they were dealing with, and having a one-time old man remove him from office was not going to be enough. You needed somebody with the energy and vitality enough to say, no, we need to bury this guy. We need to get rid of this Hitler energy once and for all. Don't give him a chance to come back in 5 years, 4 years.
So I understand. Well, since we basically in this country have bilateral choices, so if it was between Trump and an orangutan, I'd have voted for the orangutan.
Yeah.
If it was between Trump and two snakes in a viper pit or something, I would have voted for the snakes, even if they were biting at my ankles. Because I know how to deal with a snake. Trump is hard to kill. Trump is like no matter what you do to him, it's like he's made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. You're saying the kind of stuff that I feel like every time I hear those words coming out of my mouth, I'm going to have guys with nets coming in to get me any minute. It sounds crazy to say that. And I know, find myself saying it.
Yeah. And it's like, it's okay. It's like, I believe that people built the pyramids. Okay. And they just had some kind of intelligence or some kind of knowledge that we just don't know. And it's lost to us. And people who can't admit, Europeans that can't admit that there were some Africans, people on the continent of Africa who knew stuff that they didn't know, say, oh no, it's got to be aliens. I I believe in there's a logical explanation. I believe in earthly explanations. I'm coming to the conclusion that this earthly explanation is that he's made a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I'm not even a big fan of the devil or believing in the devil or giving the devil his due, but I'm running out of excuses.
Yeah. I'm just wondering now. We have our next guest has arrived, so we should get to her. But
Yes.
with John, his book, it seems like I didn't ask him this, and when he comes back, I want to ask him about this. Whether he drew some of these obviously, the dictator person is a direct parallel, right, from who the president is today. But the press secretary being this born again Christian, because I think about every time I see Caroline, and by the way, she stopped wearing the cross, and I'm just wondering, was it burning too much? Like, but there are like parallels between his character of the press secretary, who is pregnant, considering an abortion, even though her party is against, and Caroline Levitt is not pregnant, or
Well, I don't know that she's considering it. It's just that that's what that's the corner that they're pressing, or they're pushing that on her. Like, and again, that's something else that the right does. They will make something public, try to pressure you into thinking their way, so that you be ashamed to have a free thought.
Yeah. So this, I don't know. I speaking of things that I say that make me sound like a crazy person. Back when I first started doing this, I was on this mantra that there is no such thing as coincidences. Like, all the guests who were booking themselves on this show seemed to be aligned in some way. And there was a message the universe is trying to send me through all this, what seemed like a coincidence. Today we have two very politically inclined authors. The second one we're going to meet in just a second. And I feel like it's not by coincidence. Like, I know I'm overwhelmed by politics, and I think that's basically what we're all feeling. And part of the idea behind Allison's book that we're about to meet. But I feel like there is something I need to learn in this episode of Coffee with the Dog. Let's move on. Allison Scher is a journalist, author, and cultural commentator whose work explores the fault lines of modern society, from generational identity to ideological polarization. I wish I could learn to speak. She has written hundreds of stories for regional alt weeklies and niche publications, blending investigative reporting and philosophical insight. Her latest book, The Social Contagion, Viral Ideologies and the Cultural War for America's Future, is deeply researched exploration of media narratives, policy, psychological transformation, and post-pandemic America. That's a mouthful. Let's say hello to Allison Scher. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Let me show the book. Is this the book? Yes. Oh, no, that's the wrong book.
Nope.
Here's the book.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. It's hard for me to even, from reading all the stuff I have about you, to kind of get, and this is a good thing if you're going to be a journalist, not to really get a feel for your own personal politics on the whole thing. I'll just kind of clue you in. I don't think you can find a more anti-Trump person on the planet than me, but I'm not. I wear the people impose the label on me as a radical leftist, far left, radical, woke, whatever, all those things, libtard, and I'm none of those things. I'm very much a middle of the road. I consider myself very middle of the road, moderate conservative, definitely a fiscally conservative type of guy, believing in the talking points of the old Republican Party, not necessarily the actions of the old Republican Party. But I feel like social media has just broken us to the point where you're either a retard on this side or a libtard on that side or whatever you want, and just we just have devolved into this rock throwing caveman attitude. Is that the idea behind this book, and is there a way out?
Oh, totally. It examines radical politics in the U.S., but from this politically homeless center, So for people who feel like they don't fit into either of the extremes that you just spoke about, and maybe there's more moderate leaning people inside of America than we're led to believe, because of what you're talking about, of just social media polarizing people and portraying each side as kind of insane. But yeah, that is what the book is about, essentially.
Yeah, the format of the book is it's not a novel, right?
No, it's a nonfiction book. So yeah, it's short. It's about 220 pages. You can get through it in a few hours, but it examines all of the key events that happened during COVID that rocked America and led people towards extremist philosophies and just like perceptions around Trump and why did he get reelected, and how all those events kind of led up to what we're experiencing now inside this country.
The previous guest, we were talking about mental illness as if there is a certain, and I don't think there is any single form of mental illness, but I do feel like we are all suffering trauma from, I think COVID was a major trauma, but I think just the trauma of having our political institutions rock to the way I think Trump turned everything we know about politics on its ear, flipped it over, kicked it in the head, and I think that was a trauma within itself. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And I think what you were saying earlier around feeling overwhelmed is a huge part of it, is like the confusion that's been generated by politics, like during the past 5 years. You could even say during the past 15 years since Trump first announced that, well, it's not 15 years, it'll be around 15 years by the time he's done with this term.
Yeah.
But right, like ever since Trump announced that he was going to become president, the amount of bombardment that we've received with contrasting, conflicting messages in the media that has polarized the American population is disorienting to the point of, I would say, like a form of complex trauma.
Yeah, and a lot of people, besides overwhelm, a lot of people just just want to go back to watching sports and sitcoms and they just don't want to hear about the constant news cycle. The news cycle used to struggle to find stuff to talk about, and you'd get like stories about ducks and somebody saved the family of ducks on. You don't see any of that nonsense on CNN or cable news anymore, where they're just looking for fluff stories. We're constantly bombarded with the next scandal, the next outrageous thing, and people just want to go back to a life of happy idiots, I think, or just not so much. I don't need to know about this stuff. I don't need to hear about it constantly. But here we are talking more about it. Are we doing any good, or are we doing any harm by even talking about the situation that we find ourselves in?
Right. It's like we're giving energy to the thing we want to go away by talking about it. And then there's also this responsibility or civic duty, if you will, that a lot of us feel that, like, hey, we have to stay informed about what's going on politically if we want to keep our democracy intact. And yeah, I think Trump has almost become our sporting event.
It's kind of like if there's like a fire in a room, and if you keep the door closed, eventually the fire will burn itself out because of a lack of oxygen. But we keep opening the door to check on the progress of the fire, and we let more oxygen in, and then we close it. Oh, it's still burning, and we close the door and we go open up and go, oh, it's still burning, and it keeps burning because we keep opening up the door to feed it more oxygen.
Yeah. It feels like there is an incentive within the media, as much as people, especially on the people who are against Donald Trump, they don't want to give him that energy. They don't want to give him that oxygen. But if you don't and you ignore it, you're seeing the other companies cash in on the ratings and the attention they get. And media is definitely still about ratings and attention. So it's like a drug. It's like we're addicted and we can't get off it. So the question I have for you, after writing this book, are you an optimist for America, or are you hopeful for America?
Sure. I mean, my overall idea that I took away with all this research is that it's not as bad as, none of it has been as bad as the media has made us believe, from like the pandemic itself to Trump being, like, I don't think he's going to try to get a third term. I think by the end of the next like 3.5 years, like he'll be done, right? And then we'll move on and we'll realize that all of this hatred that we projected onto one another around him. And same with the pandemic too. I think that was what I got at the end of the pandemic, was all this hatred that was created was almost projected in the wrong direction, and it was stirred up by the media. So I'm totally hopeful, but I think we have a real crisis on our hand around media bias, misinformation, and online hatred that is corroding people's mental health. And I think that's something that absolutely was amplified during the pandemic and needs to be addressed.
I'm surprised that you don't think he's going to run for a third term. Now, run is a operative word, important word. But to me, I don't think you could drag him out of that office kicking and screaming. We certainly saw that in 2020. Like, he didn't want to go. He doesn't want to go. That's making him a lot of money. If there's anything Donald Trump loves as much as he loves young women or girls, it's money. So as long as it's going to keep making him money, I think they'd have to drag him out there screaming, crying, biting, whatever. So I'm not sure that's not going to be something he wants to do. I think the Republican Party would like to see go back to normal, or some sense of normal, and have him step aside after this term. But I don't think he's going to want to cooperate in that. But
can he like undo the Constitution? Like, I don't think he's that possible. Yeah, I don't think he's that powerful. So,
well, undoing it. I mean, I'm a person who believes in the Constitution, but
he actually waves the Constitution at me and says, "The Constitution."
But all of these things that we rely on is based on enforcement. And so depending on who's enforcing it, the Constitution isn't going to mean anything if nobody's enforcing it. And right now, Trump
switched places.
Trump is putting people in places of like lifetime appointments, federal courts and federal judges that are like-minded, unitary executive theory people. And so they're not going to want to hold him accountable. So we're running through the courts, I honestly believe the answer is that getting people on the left who are just as radical as the people on the right, who are willing to restack the courts, maybe expand the Supreme Court to 13 people, so there's one Supreme Justice per district, as opposed to some of them pulling double duty. You have to be like as radical and stop being, well, they're cheating, so they're redistricting, so we can't do that. That's evil. That's bad. I think the people on the left have to be just as, for the sake, temporarily anyway, as desperate as the people on the right. Don't look at me like that, Matt.
I'm sorry, Allison. I don't know who this is. I don't know who this
No,
is.
I am a solution person. I'm a solutions guided person, but I don't like solutions that we can't undo. Like, I don't want to burn down the house if I don't have to. But if that's the last option to save something, then I will burn down the house. But it's the last option, because I can't restore the house. I'll be building a different house.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to contact his family and find out what happened to the real G.D. Fenderson, because this is somebody I've never met before.
Well, what's interesting is the New York Times just published an op-ed that said, abolish the Senate and the Electoral College, pack the court, why the left can't win without a new constitution. And I think we should leave the Constitution alone, but I don't think you're alone in your ideas.
I don't know about leave the Constitution alone.
Yeah, we can't leave the Constitution alone. Right.
Yeah.
It was designed to be amended, because let's face it, the people who wrote it were rich white men with property, and they didn't have everybody's best interest in mind. And it turns out lo and behold, like magic, the country is filled with a lot of people who aren't white rich men who own property. So we need to be protected and specifically protected. Because if we're not specifically protected, there's always going to be somebody with money who can hire lawyers and say things like, I don't think those interracial couples should exist. You know, and then they'll find the loophole that goes back to, let's say, something back in the Magna Carta, even before the Constitution. Goes, see, it was never meant to be. We were never meant to be an interracial country.
Yeah. This whole idea, this is a really interesting subject to me, is the idea of I'm a constitutionalist. People who swear by the Constitution, but we all want it amended in certain ways. And so there's no such thing as maybe Allison is the one that we're finally meeting here, who thinks it was good as written, as originally drafted, and doesn't need to be kind of constantly looked at and say, how does it fit today's world? Do you?
No, now that you say it like that, I'm in support. Yes, I understand we have like racist and sexist like undertones to the foundation of our country, and all of that stuff needed to be amended. And I'm sure you could look back and view all these literal interpretations of it as a reason to reinstate those policies. But I mean, my personal feeling in this moment, and whenever I'm speaking and I'm giving interviews, sometimes I'll look back at them and be like, I don't even think that anymore. But my I'm against too much radical change at this time.
Yeah, that's what I think made me describe myself as a moderate conservative. I think things do need to change, but I think the pace of change should be slow enough that we know the side effects of the changes we're trying to implement, and we need to study change and do it in a more methodical, thoughtful manner than just a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, we don't like the America as it is today. Let's just change the Constitution overnight, and without thinking about what the ripple effects might be 25, 40, 50 years from now. So I think that's what you just described as, that mindset of change slowly.
But the issue with changing slowly, and I am for slow change, because I think that mimics the way the body works. If we experience growth overnight, we would be in a lot of pain because our body grows slowly. Bones break down and it gets replaced with new bone, and it's a slow, painless process. We never feel the destruction inside of our bodies while we're growing. And I think society should mimic that, except for what's happening is that because we have the slow, painless growth on one side, the other side has the quick, painful acts that they're just chopping at shit quickly and just tearing things down. And in order for us to undo that, we're going to have to do some things that are like quick and painful, or at least, quick and painful. Like if we amend the Constitution, the first thing I would do is to make sure that corporations are not people. They don't have the DNA of a human being. They're not people. They don't have those rights. Get rid of that. That's the first thing I would do right off the bat. And then I would fix the Supreme Court. 13 justices. And then after that I'd take a nap because I'd be really tired. No.
In social contagion, do you address any issues with proposed solutions that might be workable towards any of these issues? That I think GD just kind of touched on Citizens United there. You don't even hear any politicians even talking about that. It feels like once that got passed by the Supreme Court there, it just like, okay, that's going to be the way it is. Corporations are people now. And I'm not necessarily on that particular issue, but do you take a stance, or do you try to stay completely bipartisan and just highlight our different positions and what they are, but not offer any solutions because once you do that, you're polarizing your audience, aren't you?
Yeah, so my first book was called The Millennials. I'm a millennial, The Millennials Guide to Changing the World, and it was all prescriptive, and it was all like, we need to do this and this and this and change this. And of course, I was super young when I did it, and then I'm like, what was I on? And so for this one, I was like, I'm just going to say descriptive. I'm just going to describe the different sides, because within that there is like some solution around this interpersonal hatred, right? That was really the main societal issue I wanted to address. And in describing both sides, helping people overcome their cognitive dissonance, where like, I can't even hear your perspective because it goes against the group think of the tribe that I identify with. And spiritually, to me, identity becomes a form of suffering if we're too tightly attached to it. And I think that on larger levels can escalate into war in many cases. And so for me, I'm like, just avoid war at all cost. And so yeah, I do really try to stay in that neutral perspective in the book. And some people could view that as cowardice, but for me, it was a strategy to potentially achieve this ultimate goal.
How long has the book been out?
A month.
Okay, so you haven't had enough time for it to really percolate up a bunch of hate coming back from it. Because I'm thinking when you take that side, that position, that you've not alienated either side, but you've alienated both sides to some degree, where they're just going to assume because you didn't side with them, you're the enemy. And this is the world we've created for ourselves, where if I don't immediately jump to agreement with you, you must be on the other side. You must be a far left or far right or whatever it is. They're just the assumptions. I'll be curious to see as time goes by what the review section for your book wants to look like.
I've already gotten some bad ones, but I mean, I post on social media around these topics, and I do get hate. I do get people throwing tomatoes at me. And I do get people who are just like hell bent on trying to convince me that their way is right. And I can look at that with compassion, because I'm like, there's such a moral righteousness there, and there's such that like warrior spirit that we have to like fight for what's right in humanity and save these people's lives. But I just, the more that I've researched the different sides of these arguments, I realize it's not always black and white, and reducing it to that alienates the people that you actually need. You need to work together with them in order to create solutions or create peace or create
Allison, I'm hoping this will help you. People throwing tomatoes at you is not hate. That's cliche. Everybody does that. When they really hate you, they're going to throw eggs. See, because eggs are expensive. And when they take
as long as they're not throwing spinach, I'm okay, because I'm not a big fan of spinach.
And so if they start throwing eggs at you, that's hatred, and then you need to duck and cover. If they're throwing tomatoes, that's cliche. They just need something to throw, and you're just in the way. That's,
I just want to go way off track here and say I was traumatized as a kid on Halloween, where guys did not hit me with eggs, but they hit me with tomatoes, and they were really, really painful. So I think eggs are, even shell and all, I think I'd rather be eggs, but that's neither here nor there.
It's no. I've been egged as a human being. I had eggs thrown at me as a human being, and my mistake was, it was in the winter and it had snow. We had snow on the ground, and I thought they were throwing snowballs. So I didn't duck. I just turned my back and said, "Fine, they can hit me in the back." And then the eggs had just stained all my book bags, my clothing. It just didn't come out. I had to get rid of a lot of that stuff.
I'm going to use your favorite and my least favorite phrase to say we'll just have to agree to disagree on the egg versus tomato debate, and we'll come back to that. How do I even articulate this? I think we're at a point, because I think the black and white issue. I think there is a black and white in my mind where cultism, the idea of I give up my identity to a political party. I experienced this with both Barack Obama and Donald Trump, different sides of the spectrum, where I had people who, if I criticized a policy of Barack Obama, they would hate me and took it personally. And I said, I'm not insulting your mother or your father. I'm talking about a politician's policy thing, and they took it as you're attacking me. It's a personal attack. They tied their identity to Barack Obama. I saw it to some extent with Obama. I'm seeing it more amplified with Trump. But I think that whole idea of giving up your identity to the not just a party, but to the individual, not even an ideology, but to an individual. My identity is totally tied up in this person. If anybody criticizes them in any way, I'm going to react in a very confrontational way, because and not even taking apart personal versus policy issues. It's just that people are attaching themselves to the cult of personality. Do you see that, or do you disagree with me on that?
Oh, 100%. I think when you start to look at MAGA and even aspects of like the radical left movements that we've seen crop up since COVID, looking at it through the lens of cult behavior explains so much. And part of that, outside of the cult, like, is whenever someone can't hear your point of view or starts attacking you versus the point that you're attempting to make. If someone can't hear what you have to say, regardless of how incoherent it may seem, there's something inside of them that is fractured and is in pain, or there's something that's not right with the way that they process information. And definitely a hallmark of being in a cult is that you have all these defenses against holding your leader accountable or calling out their abuses of power. And we see that with MAGA all of the time, right? It's like people think Trump is like this golden god. He's the messiah of the golden age. There's all this religious prophecy that people have inserted him into. And then on the other side, there's like endless evidences of these abuses of power, but people are like la 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 la, or they'll be like, you radical left lunatic, right? Because they're like hypnotized into this cult that he's created around his personality, right?
Yeah, I don't. Having actually been, I'm not in, but I worked for a cult, a real cult. Not like an unnamed cult or an undefined cult like the MAGA movement is now. They don't define themselves as a religion or a cult. But I worked for a group that was a religion, and there were 1,200 people in it. And I've seen the difficulty of dealing with one-on-one to deprogram and bring people back to some kind of normalization where they had their own identity and own mind on an individual level. I find it really hard to have hope that we can deprogram the entire country as we draw these lines and become more cult-like to extremes, that we can ever find any kind of deprogramming for all of us. I think and so I find it interesting that you keep hope, because I feel like we've gone beyond the point where we can ever save our very fragile mental our psyche as a nation. How do you see us getting out of this cult cycle, because as I mentioned, I think it was pretty pronounced under Obama, but nothing like what it is under Trump. It seems to be getting worse, not better.
I think everyone just needs to order The Social Contagion. And
thank you.
My book will deprogram you. That's the whole purpose of it.
Yep, AllisonShare.com, folks. You can go buy the book today. We forgot to say you got to buy the book. This is our mantra. You got to buy the book. So
I have a question then, because I think that part of fighting back, as far as us as a collection, as a society, part of fighting back is actually regaining control over our personal data. Because I think while our data is out there, we are so subjected to being manipulated much more easily because they know what buttons to push. They say, okay, even the most sane person has some kind of fear or some kind of addressed emotional angst or something, and they can identify it by the programs you watch or the things you buy or what you eat and stuff, and so they can keep us divided that way. Do you think it's possible for us to get that genie back in the bottle where we get our personal data and at least get it under control?
Ooh, I think there are solutions coming out, but I think as a whole, with the integration of AI systems into our technologies, it's probably going to get worse. But there are ways. There's a website that just won Portland Startup Week. It's called DBias, the letter DBIAS.me. And so it's basically like an AI program that runs a bias algorithm, and you can put all your news into it, and it'll decode all the ways it's being manipulated to poke on your pain points. And it, there are ways for those who are actually interested in that. And interested in reclaiming their psyche from the algorithm. There are ways to start to undo that programming, but I think it starts with the individual actually wanting that.
Yeah.
Right. And probably not everyone's going to want that or be aware that level of propaganda and manipulation is
I think to the
happening.
contrary, people want the opposite. They want to go home, sit on the couch, put on their favorite cable TV news outlet, whichever bias that's going to be, and just it's like a drug that we crave now, where I got to sit in front of it and just let Fox take over just surrender my brain. Here, have my brain. And people want that, whether it's Fox or CNBC or CNN or MSNBC, whatever it is. People are craving it like a drug. I can't wait to get home and have my mind taken over by corporate entities and to tell me what to think. That's maybe I'm just way too pessimistic.
No, well, I mean, I think Trump, however he's in cahoots with Fox, like they have become masters at that, right? Because they're able to spin every single thing he does through this very benevolent pro-America narrative. And, the whole news cycle is just nonstop defense of his actions. And if that starts to, you have resentment towards the radical left, if you feel betrayed by the Democratic Party, which I think a lot of Americans do since COVID, that you'll just start to feed into that hook, line, and sinker. And it's really hard to break yourself out and be like, no, now I'm going to look at someone who's going to spin this completely differently, because it's disorienting. It confuses you. It sends you into a space of despair where we don't even know what's true. We have no frame of orientation to even begin to understand like what is fact and what is fiction around what's happening to us in the world. And I think, I know COVID's kind of like old news, but I think what we experienced collectively during that event around misinformation, around censorship, around tribalism and hatred around people's perspectives, I think it rattled us to the core. I think it rattled us to the core, and I think a lot of people have just tapped out at this point because it was so disorienting.
Yeah, I think I don't know what I'm gonna sound like, so I'm just gonna say it.
You sound like a conspiracy.
I'm at my age, at least when I was growing up, learning how to critically think was very important as part of the academic and history and social studies. Those things were kind of important. When I was like over 50 years ago, when I was still in school. Now, as a millennial, and I'm saying this because I don't know what a millennial is. I don't know what the age frame is.
30, she's 34, right? Okay.
I'm 38.
Okay. So a little over 20 years ago, when you're still in like the public school, well, not public school system, but the K through 12 system. Do you feel like critical thinking was something that critical thinking and history, social, do you feel like there's a solid or an adequate base given to you to prepare yourself for something like this, learning how to identify fake news, how to identify bullshit when it like is heaped onto you like this?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps my formal academic training had something to do with it, but I also think just some of us are born seekers, you know? Some of us are just like we have that thirst, we have that skepticism of the system. I just feel like I was always born like that and probably have more of a drive and motivation of it. Now, did my college education teach me in some ways how to critically think? I'm sure that was also part of it, but part of what people are talking about too is the bias inside of these educational institutions, right? So it's not even just like listening to them and them teaching you how to think. It's you also have to go a step farther and question what they're teaching, right? To really have
Well,
that
but some
mentality.
of what they're arguing, some of what they're calling bias, is when truth doesn't agree with them. Okay, so we have to be careful that we identify the correct bias, because when Trump says bias, he just means shit that he doesn't like. Okay,
I
and it
think
has
that's
nothing
what
to do.
everybody who says when anybody brings up bias, the people presenting the side that they don't agree with, that's a bias that they don't want included. And we see this in the schools, because your question was about the schools. People want they want parents more involved in their education until parents are coming up with boycotting like teaching about evolution, and then all of a sudden the other side well, that's bias. Now you can't stop that in school. It's always somebody's bias.
Yeah, but what I'm saying when I say bias, I mean just slanting it in a direction whether truth supports it or not. Okay, so if somebody decides that we should learn, there's not enough Christianity taught in schools. Okay, that's a bias. or they say we want religion taught in schools, and you say, well, okay, well, what about Islam? Well, no. What about Judaism? Well, no. What about Hinduism? No, no. We want religion taught in schools. Well, what religion? Well, the Bible. Okay, to me that's bias. Now, if they decided that we're going to go with history or archaeological digs or something like that, where in other words, anything that is you can actually verify with truth, that's what I'm saying. I don't want when Trump and them say they want to get rid of bias, like the DEI. They're not saying they want equality. They're saying they want white male supremacy. That's a bias. And it's not truth based. And that's what I'm talking about. We have to watch out when one side says bias as opposed to when they're just trying to get rid of truth.
Right. And similarly, I think MAGA just will discredit anything that goes, it's challenging Trump. That's fake news. Right. That's right. It's hard. It's hard. But inside of academia, there is still like you can present with facts, with evidence, things that shift the paradigm of those institutions, and you'll get booed out, right? You'll get deplatformed. Like, that this is just like a worldwide cultural phenomenon that humans do this to each other. And I think that it impedes our evolution. It impedes the evolution of our consciousness and our just collective sense making, which we should be entitled to.
I think everybody, and I'm not sure, because the previous guest talked about we're living in a time where everybody has a voice. Now, having a voice just used to mean you have a vote and representation within the system. But I think with social media and, this kind of platform has given rise to influencers where everybody feels like they should have something to say without educating themselves. Yesterday, I was watching a debate between Destiny, who's a live streamer on the left, and a political influencer on the right called the Misfit Patriot. And this debate, it was very clear that this guy, the Misfit Patriot, who runs a construction business, and clearly, and this is not bias speaking, this is just from a general he was not very educated on things like the law and bills and stuff like this, and didn't really do any of his research. He didn't listen, but he still felt like and he obviously has built a following around his messaging. He had something to say without ever having done the work and without ever having learned critical listening skills. Forget about critical thinking skills, critical listening skills to hear what's being said, and just comes at it with, I got something to say right out of the gate without ever having done any of the work for it. And he's running a construction business. So how much time can you actually have to devote yourself to political education and all this stuff? And that clearly it came across in that thing. So I think we are in a time where social media has given everybody the power to have a microphone and and amplify it. And I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing. We need to kind of, and I'm saying this as a person who got kicked off of radio 40 years ago, we need to make people earn the microphone a little bit more. Do you agree? Do you agree with that at all?
It's a fine line, because it brings also into the conversation this fact checking and censorship and these regulations that some people find oppressive and signs of some kind of tyrannical government taking on, that like our freedom of speech can be limited, but it goes deep into the ethics of freedom of speech, which I think is another hot topic of the era.
Yeah, I hear there is a fine line between censorship and all that. But if I were working for a company rather than myself, they would make me earn the microphone. You don't just walk into a radio station and say, I want the morning show, where now I can just go on the internet and have a morning show and do it that way, and not have necessarily paid any dues to get that. And we're seeing a lot more of that. And I think that is muddying the waters, especially when this guy sought out a debate with a guy who lives politics. And then, like, why did you even get yourself into this fight? You brought marshmallows to a gunfight, not even a knife, not even a stick. So we're seeing a lot more of that. I don't know. I hear what you're saying. It is you don't want to go to that point of censorship, but you want people to at least be prepared before they turn on the microphone and have some kind of foundation for the things they're about to say, rather than I know what I heard so and so say on cable news last night, and I'm just going to repeat those in my own words. It's still just not having your own thoughts.
Well, it's also, some people are spreading an incredible amount of hate, an incredible amount of racism and sexism and all these things that we're trying to stamp out. So, it goes into cancel culture, right? Like, I'm taking away your microphone. What are the what are the limits, and what responsibilities do we have as podcasters, as writers, as people who are on social media personalities, to use our voice in constructive ways? And I also think that I don't know right now how much that should be enforced by an outside institution. Like, what are the limits with that? And
right, yeah, I hear you, and it is difficult, and I hate to sound like what I am, which is an old man, but in the back in the day, when you worked for a radio station, you had to prove yourself by taking the overnight shift and do that for 6 months, a year, before you got a better time slot. And in social media, we don't have any of those guardrails anymore. Everybody can just do whatever they want to do. And I think that kind of freedom of speech can be excessive, to the point where you haven't laid any foundation to have that primetime spot, but yet you're giving yourself that primetime spot. Those guardrails have been eliminated from society, not to the betterment of society, in my view. But I don't think there's any putting that cork back in the bottle. That's gone.
Yeah, the gatekeepers. And then also, so I just posted something around fake news spreading faster than real news, right? Like, if everything's based, if virality is based around like this mob mentality, or this like likes and shares and all of this stuff, like in some ways that's dictating what arises to the forefront of the conversation as well, and that media is coming from people who don't have a background and don't have these formal training. So it's the wild, wild west out there.
It is. Have you visited or lived in any parts of the world outside of the United States?
Yes, I have. I've spent a significant amount of time in Latin America.
Are you noticing that they are going through some of the same things that we are, or no, we are unique in our self-destructive division that we seem hell-bent on and demonizing each other?
I think something intrinsic into being an American is you really do feel the right to exercise your First Amendment, whereas people in other countries, I think, don't really speak out as much as we do. And in some ways, people will look like I spent like a couple years living in Costa Rica. I've spent some time in Mexico. People will be like, hey, all this stuff is kind of happening here too, around the sexism, around the racism, around the fears of communism, fears of government overreach, corruption. All those things are here, like religion being infused with politics, all this stuff, right? It's happening there. But in Costa Rica, for example, my perception is that Costa Ricans don't really feel the need or entitled to duke it out with each other over all these things, and they kind of look to the US almost as like the throat of the world, where we're fighting these battles, and whoever reigns victorious, like the ripple effects will kind of spread to other countries and cultures. But they let people look to us and be like, you guys are arguing, so we don't have to.
Yeah.
I have a question about your book. Actually, it's about the cover itself.
Well, before you have a question, just say you got to buy the book. Now you can ask your question.
Okay.
I'll give you a hall pass, GD.
Okay, well, please buy the book, and then you can see the cover. Actually, you can own the cover and then answer for yourself. No, because one of the things I look for symbolism in things. The woman is, she's blindfolded with the flag. Now, in my mind, I probably would have made the flag upside down, which is a symbol of distress, but it's not. It's like there's not distress, just blindfolded. And also, there's a red splatter behind her head. Now, is that because, well, I have theories of what it could be, and each time, for each theory, I can explain it away. I just want to know for you, what does the book cover mean?
Oh, thank you for that.
And add to that question, were you heavily involved in the design of the book cover?
So I had my friend who's a brilliant artist do this, and the splatter in the back is actually a virus, right? So it's about being blindfolded almost by the deceptions of our own country. Perhaps there's an aspect of being blinded by patriotism. And then the virus has a dual symbolism of the book kind of representing the post-pandemic era, and also this idea of mind viruses taking over our
See,
stuff.
now that you've explained that's a virus, it makes perfect sense. And when you read the cover and what the book's about, that makes perfect sense. But being with my background, I just assumed she got her brains blown out, because that's what a book
Well, the spatter pattern would be different if that were the case. See, it was too defined. If you look at the ends, they're too rounded for it to be that. Which is why I asked, most people would think red and it'd be like blood, like she either blew her brains out, or her mind exploded just thinking about it,
Yeah, but it does, obviously, now that she mentioned it, that's definitely a virus symbol, the icon for a virus. But my mind immediately just thought it was she had been shot in the back of the head. So my bad.
No, it's great to get that feedback.
Yeah. I want to put you out of your misery and let you go here. But with regards to where we are now and social media and all this stuff, I had this theory, and I blew it out of water on my own, that what we need is like some kind of regulation within social media that people need to show real identity, almost like voter ID, to become involved in social media, because I think the anonymity gives people a license to just say the most ridiculous, hateful stuff because I can hide behind a fake profile picture and a fake name, a pseudonym, and nobody will never ever know who I am. But that's because of my experience on Twitter. But when I go on Facebook, you really do have to put a picture and your own name. Now, some people will still get around that and do fake stuff. But for the most part, there's a lot more people using their real name and face on Facebook and still are just as ugly. So I'm not sure my theory holds any water after that review. But
that's mainly based on their parents. You know, you can't get some parents just cannot produce an attractive child, so they're going to be ugly.
So that's CD's perspective. Do you have any kind of ideas for how we can make social media more productive and less counterproductive?
I think that like third party companies can create what's the word for it? Almost like extensions or tools that you can volunteer to integrate into your accounts that can fact check things or alert you to even an AI bot making comments, right? Because that's also part of this new wave of technology that we have going on, is that there's going to be AI bots commenting incredibly convincing content on posts and creating posts to sway public opinions towards certain things. So I think it's gonna have to come from like third parties and also people volunteering into it on an individual basis, because there seems to be too much potential for corruption when a company like Meta implements their own version of it, right? Because that can become, there can be a lot of money behind their protocol,
And
right?
certainly, anytime government gets involved, you're going to have a lot of people who are really worried about censorship, and so you can't. The big, huge corporations and the government are all seen as one common enemy of they're just trying to force their opinion. And when it comes to fact checking, I saw this yesterday in that debate with Destiny and the guy. It's like, what source are you using? Are you using Snopes? Or what are you using? Wikipedia? Oh, you don't trust them. Give me one you will trust. Give me a source you will trust. Where do I go to get information that you will accept as valid? And I think we're running out of. I don't trust any of them, and we're running into that kind of situation where nobody's to be trusted anymore. We've done this to ourselves. We can't play victim here. We did this to ourselves. I don't know.
Some of this just a shortcut, though. When they say I don't trust any of them, that's their way of saying I don't know, I don't care, didn't do the research. I think I equate that statement with when a guy and a woman have trouble, and the guy, if someone says to the guy, well, "What happened in your relationship?" The guy goes, "Man, she'd be crazy," and that was just, instead of saying maybe I did something or maybe we grew apart or look for a real reason, he's just like, I'm not going to look. I didn't look. I don't care. She'd just be crazy. And that's how I think of when they say, I don't trust any of them. I think of that as the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, it goes into a deeper question, too, is can we ever really be without a bias? Like, is there really objectivity here? Or is there always going to be some kind of like slant of subjectivity? But yeah, I mean, the whole way that media and the news operates is just so different. You know, it's not just the facts, it's activism, it's opinions. So I mean, I would love to see, like, if they have this website called Ground News. Have you guys heard of that? I would check that out. Yeah, I would check that out because it's really interesting, because it'll analyze the top stories of the week and analyze the partisanship of the different news sources, and from there you can kind of arrive at more of like a neutral look on what's actually happening. But I think we need a lot more resources like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Resource. But again, at some point, because this one guy who was a far right wing guy, he said Snopes is a left-wing publication. The founder of that guy used to be a Republican and was from the right-wing stuff. But if I don't like what he's telling me in a fact check, all of a sudden I'm going to paint them on the other side, and which was happening. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in both directions. We don't accept anything that doesn't fit our narrative in a lot of ways, and so we're not going to accept that source because even though, without even checking it, all I'm going to do is say that guy doesn't agree with me. He must be an extremist on the other side.
Maybe journalism needs to become a required class. At least 1 year of journalism become a required class in high school, so that people can learn how to, even though they have a bias, learn how to set it aside so that they can just cover what's in front of them. Yeah. And then, because I mean, it's like when we were kids and they required people to take home ec. It's like, well, you're going to need this skill. Well, now one of the skills we're going to need to know is how to set aside your bias and see the world as
that home
as it's happening.
Anyway, Allison, I will let you go. Just one final question here. Have you, in the promoting of this book, have you done any live interactive with human beings? Not this kind of digital promotion for it, but in front of actual people. And has that, if so, has it remained civil for these discussions of the book?
Well, nothing formal. I will be having a book launch party in September, and so I was thinking maybe should I integrate some kind of live panel discussion? But then I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's going to get too hostile. But I mean, with all of my research, you spoke about this. You were saying the listening, right? The deep listening is always part of it. And I will have conversations with many different people, and I'll just be like, what do you see happening? Right? And it can be so radically different than what I see happening. And whenever I do that, I usually tend to just mirror back to them to avoid confrontation, but I'm taking in the information, even if it challenges how I'm seeing things, right? So I can have a more objective point of view to do things like write this book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll also have really amazing conversations like the one we're having right now, where we don't see things eye to eye, but that zest for figuring it out is really there. The humor we can bring to stuff like this, realizing that we can't let it get the best of us and our humanity and all that stuff. And then you can have some real fun talking about politics, but to do the long story short for your answer is that's really the extent of it in a more informal basis.
Yeah, I would love to see you do something like a Barnes and Noble, not to promote Barnes and Noble, any kind of brick and mortar book signing, and just see who wants to tell you where you're wrong, because the people who agree with you won't say a word. They'll just thank you, sign the book, thank you very much, or enjoyed the book, whatever. But the people who disagree with anything, pick out one sentence and make you the enemy and the devil, and that would be you almost have to take a security team with you to protect you to do live events now if you have any kind of even touch on anything political. So I salute you for having the bravery. It really does take some courage and bravery to write a book like this. So the book is called Social Contagion. We want to tell people you got to buy the book. Right, 3D? You got to buy the book?
Yes, you got to buy the book.
And where do you go to buy the book?
Go to Amazon. Amazon. You can also check out my website. And yeah, I mean, I didn't write the book so everyone would agree with me and just be like, oh, Allison, you're so amazing. Your thoughts and logic are just the perfect, right? So part of it, doing this for the right reasons, it involves I won't delete hate comments off my posts when people leave them, because I'm like, no, this is not about just creating an echo chamber where everyone loves everything I think and say. But yeah, it is kind of.
I got that on a video I made about the cult mentality the other day, and they were saying I'm going to get ratioed on this, and I welcome that. All your negative comments, for whatever, I don't care what the ratio, what people disagree or agree with me is. The fact that you're expressing your opinion will have more people thinking about it, and so I welcome the negativity. I don't delete negative comments, and I sometimes I will reply to them, which I probably shouldn't. I should just let them say what they want to say. But I think I welcome the idea of this idea. Oh, you're ratio, so that proves that you're wrong. No, that just proves that I'm reaching an audience that disagrees with me. The algorithm is attracting people who are more likely to disagree with me. It doesn't mean whether I'm right or wrong. It doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It's we both have different takes on it, and I am going to consider at least what you have to say about it and what you think about it. Anyway, we do appreciate you being here. Good luck with the book. We will continue to tell people to buy the book. I'm going to buy the book. And thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful talking to you both.
Same here.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Have a great day. Bye. Allison Sher, folks. The book is called Social Contagion. It's right there. The link is in the description. The Amazon link and the link to her website are in the description. So go buy the book. What is this saying? I got to take the book out of here. So I left. I left this on with the volume down. Every time I looked down, I saw GD taking an animated. Talking in an animated manner, and Allison just listening. Well, isn't that every show? You could do that for every broadcast that we do, right? On this, people think they don't have a bias or whatever. Joe Rogan, my favorite. He's my favorite podcaster of all time. I don't know if you know that. Not really.
I didn't know that.
That's because it's not true, because I'm friggin' lying about it. But
thank God. I didn't know how to react to that revelation.
So he says he doesn't buy into extremism from either side. He's like, I don't identify. First of all, he's a right winger now. There's no when you endorse Donald Trump, you can't come back and say, I'm not either right wing or left wing. You fucking endorse Donald Trump, you're a right winger. But he says, I hate extremism on both sides. I reject extremism on both sides. And I came back with, you're the guy who absolutely believed they were putting litter boxes into kindergarten stuff. You're saying you reject extremist ideas and talking points, but then you were spreading that and swearing to God it was true. You knew a kindergarten teacher as you started out. You knew a friend of mine is a kindergarten teacher. Like, yeah, we see a lot of people who make $120 million hanging out with kindergarten teachers. But a friend of mine is a kindergarten teacher, and she reported this to me, that they made her put a litter box in her room. And then his own producer, Jamie, fact-checked him on it. And they go, but I saw it online. Wait, you were just saying did you forget that you just vouched saying you had a friend who had this experience, and now it's, but I read it online. It must be true. But to say I don't buy into extremism when you buy into things like kids are having sex changes in school and there's litter boxes in kindergartens, there's no doubt you're an extremist. But I caught so much hate for just pointing out to Rogan, and I'm sure he didn't read it, but all his fans read it. And again, this is cult mentality. They take it as you're coming back at Joe. You're an enemy of me because I am Joe. Joe is me. I've given my identity over to Joe. You can't criticize Joe or even point out the truth about Joe without hurting me. I think that's a big problem where we are today. Is that Stephen in the chat room there? I see. Joe Rogan is a tool of the society. Slaptail says, hurtful. I thought I was Matt's favorite podcaster. You are. Well, I don't know about podcaster. To be honest with you, I don't even listen to podcasts. I used to. There's just too many of them. I will support Slaptail, though. You were on there, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to schedule another thing, I think, on there.
Another thing, you didn't say enough about your mom before. Hey, he wants you back to talk more about your mom.
Well, this actually the other one was just kind of about my mom. This one is going to be all mom all the time.
All mom all the time.
Yeah.
Did you see the picture, a photograph that John posted? It's a rock star. It's an album cover of comedian, except one guy is smiling. It would be good if that one guy would just frown down a little bit on the smile. The guy
Is this the one from the top of the stairs down?
Yeah. The guy at the
Okay.
very bottom of the stairs got a little bit of a smile on. Don't know. Everybody else looks like a perfect album cover shot, and that guy's got a little bit of a smile. And nobody can say maybe you photoshopped that smile out of the guy. Just kind of.
Well, it's possible that's the first time they've been part of a picture, you know, with a group of other comedians or something. I was at a show and the three. Oh, so I was the fourth person. I wasn't part of the show originally. They had a person drop out. And so since I was there in the back room, they said, "You want to go in and do a few minutes, GD?" I went, sure, I'll go on. What the hell? And so when we go outside, look at the flyer, this one, the feature, she goes, "Oh my God, I've never seen my picture on a flyer out," you know. And so she took the picture with herself because it was so exciting for her. Yeah. It's like, yay.
Steven says, yeah, that's why I wasn't invited. Stupid stairs picture. Listen, you got to stand up for yourself, dude. When they don't invite you, say, hey, what about me? What about me? That was a song from the 80s. Nobody remembers that one. Anyway, I don't know what I was supposed to learn here today. I feel like the universe is telling me something because both of these authors in their works have a related theme there. But what is my takeaway? What am I supposed to take away? I'm too worn out. I was working on that stupid video all night. I don't know what I'm supposed to. What do you think I'm supposed to be learning here today?
How to do a better paint party.
Oh, I threw a paint party Friday night. That was interesting. Okay, then.
What's it? I mean, you said interesting. How interesting? How or how interesting was it?
They well, first of all, it's in a clubhouse. You got a clubhouse where you live. It's a gated community, right? You pull into this gated community, and they have this whole pool area clubhouse thing that is just for people, recreation stuff. To me, that's almost like living in a friggin' mansion. I got this, this whole big old clubhouse, area where they can throw parties. It's just like a catering hall with a gigantic built-in pool that nobody's using. I said, what time does the pool close? 8:00. What the fuck is it? Why are you closing the pool? The whole idea of having this pool out here is so you can go skinny dipping at midnight or later. Closing the pool at 8:00. But so all these, usually when I do a paint party, it's people who have some connection other than living in the same gated community, like they're friends, they have common interests and all this stuff. So it's not that, it's like a big social where it's a lot of talking going on. And so I'm set up and ready to start the thing, and now everybody wants to just talk and mingle, and it's like they're at a big party. And I understand the party atmosphere of it. I start out by saying I'm not an art teacher, I'm a party facilitator, but it's like almost nobody was ready to get started. I started out by saying, don't get ahead of me and start painting away. Wait for I give you some kind of
prompt, instructions,
steps. I didn't want to say instructions. Like there's a step and a methodology here. And before I even finished saying that, a woman's got blue across the bottom of her painting. It's like, wait, we don't even start at the bottom. When you don't start with the blue, you start with the. I'm basically still telling you, don't start painting without me. And this woman is got half a canvas. Like, give me that. Get a fresh canvas. Now I have a canvas with messed up blue on the bottom. I have to find some kind of use for it rather than just throw it out. But they were talking a lot, like very loudly, like intermittent and drinking. It was a paint and sip thing.
Oh, okay.
A lot of ladies, no men. A lot of giggling, laughing, good times, which is all good. They all were very happy.
Well, it was all ladies, so that's why there was all the fun.
And
guys don't know how to have fun. That was
the one guy who was there early in the evening. I said, "Are you not staying with us and painting?" He said, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Yeah, that's the Cyndi Lauper song. Guys don't know how to have fun.
Yeah, guys don't want to have fun.
Yeah.
Where's Cyndi Lauper when I need her? But it was interesting in that respect that there's this just the guys don't want to take advantage of this beautiful clubhouse that they have. I mean, and this great area that you could have fun in. You could make the best of it and have a really good time. And the guys just stayed away, and it was just a bunch of middle-aged women enjoying the night out with one dude and painting. But it was hard to kind of get the not instructions again, but just give them an idea of how to do the painting in a way that would make them happy. So when I took the painting picture of everybody, it's like I almost don't want to turn this in because the company's going to think, well, what the fuck were you teaching these people? But you know what? In that position, I'm saying it's a part. I don't want to say, hello, come on, can we pay attention here? You don't want to do that. You want to keep it light and fun.
Right.
They're going off the rails and just like.
See, what you do next time, you say, look, ladies, if you don't calm down, we're going to turn this into a nude painting, and I'm going to have to sit up here nude. And you don't want that. So please calm down, calm down, and let's get to the subject. Otherwise, it's a defense mechanism. I don't mean to do this. It's just that when I feel nervous, I take off my clothes, and you guys are making me nervous by not paying attention.
It almost ended up that way, to be honest with you. By the end of the night, I was doing Frank Sinatra a cappella, and they want to hire me for music parties. But I that's where I was. I was like, how do I get you focused on me? Well, I'm gonna have to sing so that you stop talking, but we're not painting now. We're just drinking and watching me sing, which is not. I don't think anybody's fantasy for a good time. Me just standing up there singing a cappella at you. One good thing, I have learned to stay in key while singing a cappella. So I generally, in the old days, with relative pitch, if I didn't have an instrument, there was no way I was staying in the same key. We have an interesting week. Tomorrow, Leanne Linsky, well, I keep wanting to call her Leanna, she's here in the second hour. She's kind of like a good luck charm to me in the sense that last time she was here, I had a gig, a high-paying gig I had to get to. You got incoming? A missile coming into your house or something?
There's a helicopter flying over my house.
Sounded like a missile, to be honest. Anyway.
Well, it could be. I take that back. It could be an airplane. But anyway, it's over my house, and I think I'm being targeted.
All right. Yeah. Dan Scabino Jr. But so last time Leanne was here, you had to handle it, you and Willie. And tomorrow I have a music show. I have to get out pretty early, but I have time to do the whole show. But she's I want to have a book every day because I'm getting these. Every time she books, I have a high-paying music gig. So if we could get her to book every day, whether she's going to show up or not, that's fine. Just to have a book every single day, so I keep getting gigs. I think that would be a good thing. And then Wednesday, I have another music gig. I'm going to have to get out really early on. We have to end exactly at 11:30, like you like me to do. And but we have 2 guests on that day. Then 1 guest on Thursday and 3 guests on Friday.
Is there like one of them is like 2 of them are appearing at the same time?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
2 dudes who wrote a book together. How do you write a book with a dude? I could never write a book with a dude. Hey, GD.
I have trouble writing a book with another person.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I agree. Not just a dude or anybody else, but that whole collaboration on a book. I have some issues. It's been a struggle sometimes to collaborate on music, but a book would be like really difficult for me. It's like, you want to write a paragraph, man? I wrote this chapter. You want to look at my chapter and make changes to it so I can argue with you that you fucked up my chapter? I don't know. It's that collaborative process.
Yeah, and this is something I'm pretty sure you can identify with. When I did my CD, there was one song that it was years old. I'd written it when I was like in my 20s, like early 20s, like maybe 19. And and so we were doing it, and it had a time signature change in the middle. And my keyboard player because we were teaching it to the keyboard player and the bass player hadn't played it for years. Phil didn't have a problem with it. The drummer had never played with us. He was studio in there for the studio. And so he was having difficulty with the time signature change, but it wasn't that difficult. It was from 4/4 to 3/4, I think, and then back to 4/4. No biggie. And then my keyboard player goes, "I think we should just keep it 4/4." And I was being open-minded. Went, sure. So we record it, and everything goes fine. And deep down inside, I'm like, I should have kept the 3/4. Otherwise the song really is boring without that little breakup. It's just boring. It's not like a great song. It's a fun song, but it's not like a great song. And I needed that time signature to make it stand apart. Wow. About 6 years later, my friend, the keyboard player Doug, says to me, "Remember when we were in the studio and I told you, I talked you into dropping the 3/4 part, replacing it with 4/4?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I think it would have been better with the 3/4."
Oh, you want to pay to have it reproduced? That's my answer to that. All right, I'm gonna press the button now and say we'll try tomorrow. There'll be no technical issues. We'll start right from the beginning.
Oh, okay. And today we're going to listen to Propaganda, the video. We're gonna debut the video Propaganda right now.
No, it's not ready. It's not ready.
Well, what you got? Play what you got.
I can't. It's still it's not exported, and I would have to put.
Don't export it. You'll have to pay a tariff on it.
That's right. Import. Oh my God! This was part of the argument between Destiny and this misfit patriot. Oh, tariffs are not a tax. They are indeed an import tax. It's the definition of what tariffs are. But we got all this money coming into the country from tariffs. No, the money is not coming into the country. Money is being paid by American companies to import stuff from other countries. The money is going from America to America. Corporations and companies are paying for that. Eventually, and they already have started, they're going to pass on that spending to you. It is definitely a tax. Oh, but it's not like a tax like an income tax. You can voluntarily not import the stuff. Not if you're a company where your raw materials that you use are only available from certain companies. And income tax, you can't.
And not only that, but we've based our business model on cheap labor. And so a lot of these companies even the ones that used to be in the U.S., have sent that stuff overseas to be done and assembled and put what I don't understand is if the Republicans know that they know it's a tax. They know it's being paid by corporations. They know that. I mean, there's no way they could not know that. Why not just raise the corporations' taxes like by 10% instead of giving them a 15% tariff to pay?
Huh. Wow, yeah, and they're totally dead set against any kind of
right.
Well, it comes back to what you were talking about before, and definitely, without a doubt, this Citizens United there have been a lot of bad things that have happened along the way, but this is the one thing that really needs addressing, and the only politician I even hear even mentioning the word is Bernie Sanders. We had that guy on who wrote the book, and I brought this is a political author, and I said Citizens United. He said, "I'm not familiar with that organization."
Right,
dude.
Right.
How do you not know?
How could you not? No, my cat understands Citizens United. We were just talking about it last night, my cat and she decided that she had enough of me talking about Citizens United. And said, "Just rub my belly. I've had enough. Rub my belly."
I'm going to try that technique from now on. I should have tried that with our previous guest there because I don't know if you
Allison?
Yeah, Allison, because if you go to her website now, she's a very attractive lady here. But if you go to this where she's wearing this like black short skirt, whatever, sitting on a piano or something, it's just like, oh, you're hitting Matt's buttons there. Stop. I had to keep the horn. I don't know if you saw, but I put a cage around the hound dog while you were.
Well, no, I noticed that you were being overly respectful.
You saw me put my pants back on.
Well, I wasn't because I didn't notice you had them off. I do not look at you beneath the microphone. I don't look at anything beneath the microphone.
Good for you. That's a smart move.
Yeah, believe me, I've worked with Ron too long. I don't want to know. I don't want to know how the sausage.
That sounds like a familiar thing. Ron. There was somebody in my memory from.
One of the things I learned from working with Ron is I don't want to know how the sausage is made or displayed.
Is that Ron? Ron?
Yeah, that's the one.
All right,
that's the one. Ron.
If I wanted to find out more about this Ron person, could I find out by turning on my radio?
Yes.
listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me.